Oh, awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. There's been a lot of emotions going on right now. A lot of people are purging, a lot of emotions, a lot of things are coming up. I've had so many people contact me that they're going through, they kind of detaching themselves away from a lot of social media because they're going through their own. I don't know if you want to call it like the dark night of the soul or what you want to call it, but there's been a lot of things from childhood, past past lives, childhood traumas, PTSD. All of those things are starting to like boil up, and we're actually having to face those things like right now. So we were just kind of talking about what we wanted to talk about today, and one of the things is a couple weeks ago we released 3 trapped emotions for the collective, and it was the pride, shame, and shock. Now, we didn't really go deep into those emotions, those trapped emotions, but we just kind of did like an overall. So today we're going to take a little deeper dive because we have 3 brand new trapped emotions for the collective that want to be released, and they are worthless, blaming, and anxiety, and in that order. So we'll probably talk a little bit. We'll go around I want to say around the room, but around the Zoom table, and just we'll talk a little bit about those things. I know Colette has so many great things to talk about, how why it's so good to get those trapped emotions released from the body, letting go of those, and how if we don't, how it can hinder our lives. So we'll just go around the room quickly, say a little blurb, and then while you guys are doing that, I'll just kind of get down and get a little deeper into each emotion that wants to be released for the collective. So Colette, would you like to go first?
Sure. Yeah. So part of the coaching that I've been doing and training in the last year is shadow integration. And so I've been reading a lot about emotions and what they do to our bodies. I mean, they're pretty much the cause of all dis-ease in our body. And so I just started reading Letting Go by David Hawkins. And he talks about how one emotion can have thousands of thoughts attached to it. And so if you release that one emotion, you'll get rid of all of those thoughts associated with it, which to me is pretty amazing. Because if you think about anything that stops you, it's a thought. Usually it's either the thought of the emotion, but it's the emotion bringing the thought that then stops you from moving forward, like procrastinating, stress, like all of that is caused by these emotions. And sometimes they get trapped, which is what Amanda does. She releases trapped emotions. Sometimes you just don't want to look at them. So some emotions are so scary that we stuff them down inside and we think that we're actually going to die if we feel them. Because I've had that before. A long time ago when I first started doing this work, I really didn't feel many of my emotions at all. I had always practiced not feeling anything but happy, because happy was the only acceptable emotion pretty much. Plus, like, I wanted other people to be happy. And so I thought if I could just be happy enough, then I could make the people around me happy. And so that's what I tried to do. I tried to be so happy and positive that I would make other people happy. But in doing that, I was stuffing down all of my other emotions, and I was basically just like numb. And so when I first started feeling my emotions, I remember I was in a room. This was probably 7 years ago, 7 years ago. It's been a while, but I was going to this group, and I remember feeling like I was literally going to die. And while I was feeling this emotion, it's like anxiety. And so 2 people came over and held my hand. And because they were there in that support, I was able to actually feel and release the emotion that would have been too scary for me to face on my own. So that's why this work is so important to me, is because I know how important it is to have some support around some of these emotions, because they're just so big and scary that we'll do anything not to feel them. And so that's where addictions come from too, is not wanting to feel these emotions because they're just too much. We think that they're going to overtake us. So that's why I'm really excited about this topic and about what we do and my coaching, and of course everybody else what they do. And then Rebecca was talking about how when we have these trapped emotions, they'll keep us stuck in the 3D. So I'm going to let her talk about that.
Sure. Yeah. Trapped emotions can be very toxic, even to the point where you can literally make yourself sick. Healers know that many times a person is suffering from a dis-ease because there is a buried emotion in there. It could be anger, it could be frustration. I've experienced this myself. One time I was so angry about a situation that was happening in my life, I manifested an acute appendicitis attack. Fortunately, I was able to heal it spiritually with the help of a healer, but it was very clear to me that was what had brought it on. Toxic emotion can be very, very deadly. You can actually kill yourself with the poison of negative emotions like anger and hatred. I mean, they've taken the saliva out of people's mouths who have, gone into rages, and it's actually poisonous. They've done tests. Worthlessness we were talking about as far as the emotion, we were kind of going to hone in on this little discussion. Empaths are very sensitive people. We are all light workers. We are empaths. And we sometimes don't understand the fact that there are very narcissistic personalities in the world who are disconnected emotionally from how they relate to people. You can just be an object to them, a thing, and you don't realize it because they don't think like you and you don't get it. So it can create a feeling of worthlessness if you're trying to deal with people that are not empathic and are not on the same page as far as wanting to help the planet, help each other, unity, all the good stuff that we like to talk about. Not everybody's like that. And you can begin to feel worthless if you spend too much time around those kinds of people without understanding they're feeding off your energy. So it's important to, I think, study some of these things and tap into it, because generally people aren't taught how to cope with all sorts of personality types when they're in school, unless they study psychology or really dig into these subjects. It's just not common knowledge how people are operating. Another thing I've explored is tapping, EFT, where you can tap away your problems and your stress. It's very effective. I'm a tapping into wealth coach, and it's been used extensively for people with problems like post-traumatic stress very, very effectively. So it's a simple procedure. There's a lot of videos on the internet that can teach you how to do it. And you can really, change your vibration, your energy by tapping on your face and claiming your power, your sovereignty. To me, it's all about waking up, because once you wake up and you claim your inner power, you can free yourself. But it's a process.
I love that. I love that we have so many different tools that we can use. It's not just so, one size fits all. That's why we all come together for our own gifts and talents, and we all work together to help, right? We have so many different things in our toolbox. And I have did the tapping before, and it does give you a real sense of peace and calmness. At first, when I first did it, I was like, I feel kind of silly, right? But I was like, it's okay, because I know at the end I'm going to feel so much better. So, so I love that. Okay. Adam, did you want to say anything before we get to releasing?
Yeah, a lot of these emotions, I mean, I know that they're there, but for whatever reason, I don't know if I just don't hold on to them, or if I don't, they don't really stick with me that much. Like, I don't really have anxiety, and I'm a certified IPEC coach. So those of you that have been through IPEC know that they do energy coaching is what they do, and they have a I don't want to say an exam, but like a test that they can put you through. That's called an ELI, Energy Leadership Index. And basically, it measures your energy levels from 1 to 7 on how you're showing up in the world when you're just in regular day-to-day mode and when you're in a stressful mode. And what came up for me, it's something that I completely expected to, is um, when everything's normal, I'm operating usually in a level 5, which is I can't think of the terminology right now, but which is really high. 7 is the highest, 1 is the lowest. 1 is like your victim energy, 2 is like you're angry and you're aggressive. 3, you're just kind of mid-range. 4, you're more compassionate and empathetic. And 5, you're really, you're creating and you're thinking and you're kind of the visionary type person. And that's kind of where I am. But when you're under stress, it's something a lot different. Most people drop down to a level 1 and will stay at a level 1 for a while. Mine was actually balanced between a level 1 and a level 5, which meant that I probably for a couple seconds will drop down to a level 1 where I have anxiety and, I'm feeling victim, but then I immediately turn it around and say, okay, what's the opportunity here? And so for me, I mean, that's just, confirmation that I do that quite frequently when something isn't working out. It's the universe telling me, hey, this wasn't supposed to be like this. You're supposed to learn a lesson from this. And I seem to hear that kind of voice in my head almost instantaneously. So there are times that I definitely do feel anxiety, but maybe not as much as other people do. Worthlessness, I mean, I kind of go through maybe a little bit of a roller coaster on that one, because there's times when I feel that I should be more successful if I was basing my success off of money. And I know a lot of times a lot of us do that. And I know it's probably not the best way to measure your success, but it definitely is in the 3D world, the way that a lot of people measure success. And for me, especially the last 3 years now, going on my third year, um, figuring out the online world and how to navigate through it and how to make money. I mean, I think I was fairly successful in, the retail world and climbing up that corporate ladder and managing hundreds of people every day. I did really well with that. But when you transition out of that world that you did really well in into this world, like the online network marketing, MLM type structured deals, I haven't quite made the kind of money that I know I should be earning, at least be earning. And so then, the worthlessness then starts to creep in a little bit, and I go through these highs and lows. And that's just the highs and lows of being an entrepreneur. And, even though people tell you it takes, 3 to 5 years before you make any money online, I mean, we all think that, oh, well, that's just so and so saying I can do it in like months. And you can do it in months, but the reality is very, very few people would ever do that in months unless they had a very, very good teacher that just kind of you were riding on their coattails to figure out exactly what they were doing, or they were a close friend of yours. But the reality is it just doesn't happen that often. What was the last one? I can't remember the last one.
The last one was anxiety.
Oh, I said anxiety, worthlessness, and
Blaming.
blaming. Yeah. I don't know if I really blame people. And maybe the only person I blame is always myself. And that's just kind of a way that I've always been. If something is going wrong or someone didn't do something, especially in the retail world, for those of you that, if you've ever worked at Walmart as a manager, I don't ever blame anyone. And I know that, retail managers typically are the opposite way. So-and-so didn't do their job. And, no, I would always blame myself for maybe I wasn't clear enough with my instructions, or, why is this happening to me? How did I attract this into my life? That's a lot of times on how I always view it. So before I blame, I look myself in the mirror and saying, well, maybe I wasn't that clear, or maybe, maybe this was happening because there's something else that has to happen first. And maybe I have to get this lesson, right? So, and so that's part of it, is that I'm just kind of, that kind of way. And that's just always been my personality, is that there's times it's nice to blame people. It's like, so-and-so is an idiot, and so-and-so didn't do this, or so-and-so didn't do that. And it's nice to point the blame, but I always play the game as if you're pointing the finger, there's always three fingers pointing back at you, right? So I always, if I'm ever going to point, I always point with a full hand, just so everyone knows. But
You over there. Come on.
but that's just a little bit, how I sort of navigate through things. And maybe that's why I'm always so positive. And my wife always says, you're always so positive. You always find the positive outlook in everything. And even when my bike got stolen, like I had a $2,000 bike that got stolen this past summer. And I'm like, well, maybe they needed it to, buy some groceries and they had to sell it or something. And, they had a starving family, or maybe the person who stole it really needs drugs, but, it's on their karma that, they have to do this. And, so, and the best happened, because right after that, I wish I still had this vision board, because I actually cut this picture out of the exact bike that I was picturing back in like 2010, I think it was. And I don't have the picture anymore, but I swear if I had it, it would be the exact colors, the exact everything. I couldn't believe it when I found this bike. Even the wheel on it was very, very specific on how it looked. And I seemed to find this exact new bike, and I ended up buying it. So everything works out for a reason. You can get all upset and mad. And yes, I was, when I walked out in the morning, the garage door was open and my bike was gone. And I don't even normally keep the bike in the garage. I usually keep it inside. And anyways, I walked out and it was gone, and said to my wife, my bike got stolen. And she was crying and upset. And I swear if she could throw things, she was throwing things, but she didn't. And I said, listen, happened for a reason. Just, we got to let it go. Right. And I think that's the most important thing with this, is learn to let go of that energy sooner than later. The more you hold on to it, the harder it gets to let go of it, the thicker it gets. And the thicker that energy is, the more it just weighs you down. And then you really feel like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders. So.
Very nice, Adam. Thank you. Well, thank you everyone for contributing to this. So when I was going through and you guys were talking, I kind of dug in a little bit deeper to the specific trapped emotions that we all have, and their definitions, because there's multiple definitions for each word. And I chuckled when Adam said, well, I blame myself. And the actually blaming is blaming the self. So that's what I was like, yeah, So, but as you guys were talking, I was my attention was pulled towards grabbing a card. So to do a card reading, just pulling one card, and this is from the Starseed Oracle. So we need to see what the message is, and then we'll release. So this is a message for the collective with one card, and then we'll release those trapped emotions for everybody. Okay, so I've been just kind of shuffling over here while Adam was talking. We're already releasing so much because the energy is going through me. That's when I yawn. And I've already been thanking our angels for letting us know what we need to know right now for the collective. So it's just one card. And these kind of tend to stick together. So let's see what it says here. Okay, so it's upside down. So we have to pay close attention. It says Star Brothers, Horus energy, protection, loyalty, safety, and trust. Let's see if you guys can see that.
Mm-hmm.
You guys see it? Is it good enough on there? I know, let's try to. Okay, so let's see what this says. We're just talking about star families. Okay, So star brothers, you're more protected than you can imagine. It's safe to open the back of your heart. You're being called to open to receiving a new level of support now from those in your life and from those benevolent beings you're connected with. Through ancestral patterning, current life traumas, and past life karmic impressions, many of us have become mistrustful and suspicious of loyalty and have blocks when it comes to receiving support. We learn that we need to go at life alone. I have felt like that many times in my life, and I still kind of always look at people with a suspicious eye. So that is not safe to it's not safe to let your guard down or open your heart, and that the world isn't a friendly place. So the Star Brothers want you to have a new experience on life on Earth. They want you to feel deeply secure and safe. Even if you're going through a difficult time, they want you to hand over your fears to them, to see them as opportunities to let in more love. Okay, so they're guiding you to open to receiving a greater level of support than you can ever imagine, both in this world and beyond. To call in your team of loyal protectors and supporters, both physically and energetically. They want you to learn to soften through life's ups and downs and learn to open your heart, especially when it most wants to harden. So one of the things, these cards always ask you a question. So this is a Starseed Soul Inquiry, and it says, how can you open yourself up to receiving more support? So I really like that. And I feel like with what we're going on right now, with everything that's going on right now, sometimes we feel alone and we are distrusting. We distrust our government and people of power, and like, how are they lying to us? And they don't have our best interests. But I think this card reminds us that there is so much love and support in humanity itself and coming together as a collective, because love conquers all. So that was a great little reading. Did anyone have anything to say about that before I release some of these collective energies?
I thought that was very aligned with these trapped emotions we're talking about.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, very aligned.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Thank you. So this first one of worthless, the definition for the collective, which I found very interesting, was serving no purpose. How many times in your life you're like, what am I supposed to be doing? Like, I feel, a lot of us, we feel worthless because we're like, we're not doing anything. There's like, I'm not contributing. I'm not, putting myself out there. How can I make a difference? It's just me. I'm only one person. But we all have a divine purpose. A lot of times people come to me because they don't know what that divine purpose is. They're so broken and so alone and so depressed that they can't even think about what their purpose could be. So I think a lot of people right now are feeling like, what is the purpose? Even like, what is the purpose of life when we're going through all of these trials and tribulations? So we are going to, okay. Let me just double check to see how this wants to be released. Okay, so it just wants to be released with a magnet. So easy peasy. And then this is, so this worthlessness serving no purpose is actually coming in. This is like a karmic pattern. So we're going to release that karmic pattern that we've been brought into each and every one of our lives. So it's really, really deep emotions here. So let's release that. So we're just going to release the trapped emotion, the karmic trapped emotion of worthless and serving no purpose. Okay, perfect. So that's released. Okay. All right. Oh, interesting. Okay, so sorry guys. I can't release this next one because I have to pull another card. So there's another message for us. So let's see what it is. I have multiple different cards here. Okay, this one's from Keepers of the Light by Kyle Gray. So let's see what Ascended Masters want to tell us today. Anybody wants to say something while I'm shuffling, go ahead.
Well, a few things were coming up for me while that everyone else was talking. And one is that our emotions influence our thoughts, and then that influences our filter in the world. And so David Hawkins in that book was talking about how that's like thoughts are the cause of all wars too. These emotions are the cause of all wars. And so because if you see things as being dangerous and scary, that's what you're going to see, even when there's no danger. There's not actually any danger. You're going to feel danger, and you're going to feel scared because you have these trapped emotions. And like blame, right? You're going to blame other people, but nothing that's happening is the cause of your emotions. So what happens is we have emotion, which leads to a thought, which leads to projection. That's another defense mechanism. And so we'll say like, oh, it's this thing or that thing or this other thing or something out there that's causing this emotion. So that was coming up for me because of what you guys were saying. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you, Colette. Okay, so one more shuffle here. Okay, let's see what we have here. So, oh, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I think it's Hilarion, Divine Healing. And how perfect is that? Honor your sensitivity. We've been talking a lot about sensitivity today. Retreat to recharge and heal. And I think we've all talked about how we've been kind of taking a step back. We're not really on, I mean, we may check a little social media, but we're not like, on it like we were prior. And then your light can support others. Like it, you can't just make this stuff up. We're just talking about having support, and we are the light. That's why we're light workers, right? So look at this guy. It's pretty good. Did I say his name right? I don't know. Hilarion?
Hilarion, that's how I'd say it.
Okay, that's what I think. Okay, so let's see what he's all about. All right, so Hilarion is a spiritual master who lived in the Middle East during the 4th century. And at the age of 15, he felt the call to go to the retreat of St. Anthony in the Egyptian desert. This was busy with people needing healing. So after a while, he went back home with some monks. During that time, his parents passed away, and it was said that Hilarion was so devoted to service that he gave all of their estate to his brothers and to the poor. For the rest of his life, he lived as a hermit in a cave and was said to perform miracles with his prayers and touch. To this day, he is dedicated to healing, but he also helps spiritual people who feel overly sensitive to overcome their challenges and integrate with the normal world. Well, we all need a little bit of that sometimes, don't we? So the extended message is the world can seem overwhelming to you, and it's okay to retreat to a safe space every now and then to cleanse and recharge your energy. You may feel called to serve others or share your healing with them, but please ensure you are filled up with light, love, and energy first, so that you are not sacrificing your own development for others. You are surrounded by the healing light of Hilarion and the healing angels at this time so that you can recharge and feel whole. That's awesome. I really like that card. Okay, so as we're reading, I'm still processing energy here. Okay, so the next one we're going to do is the blaming. So like I said before, this was blaming the self is finding fault with oneself. Okay, so that's what we're going to heal for the collective. And we're going to also, I feel like this is also karmic. So it's karmic blaming. So let's release the karmic blaming and blaming the self, and finding fault with oneself. So totally, completely, and permanently. Okay. Now. Okay, that one's done. Well, we just have a special treat, guys. We have lots of messages coming in because I have to pull another card before we get to this next one about anxiety. So let me see what deck this is going to come from. Hold on a second, guys. There's a okay, there's like this space, and my pendulum was like, yeah, it's that one. And I'm like, well, which one? But it was like pushed all the way back. So this is the soul journey cards. So let's see what this one has to say. Everybody feeling okay?
Mm-hmm. I'm good.
Okay. Keep yawning. Yeah. All right. So soul journey. Okay. This is like right in alignment with what we've all been talking about. So this is failure. And it says, I understand that a mistake is only an opportunity to learn. And that's exactly what Adam just said a few minutes ago. So let's see if there's something else here to talk about. Okay. So life on Earth is full of experiences. It is our human brain that views outcomes as good or bad. The soul simply views them as chances to grow. Learn to see the big picture of life instead of the mutiny. Failure to accomplish a task is merely the opportunity to evolve, and the negative connotation of the word failure can prevent you from trying again. You must come to the realization that there's no judgment involved with your soul's lessons. Realize that what you view as a failure is just your soul telling you that there is another path. Embrace the maxim: when one door closes, another one opens. It is time for you to stop the negative emotional investment you have in the outcome. Revel in the knowingness that everything will reveal itself when it's meant to. No matter what, be true to your dream and the creative process. It's good. It means don't blame yourself, right? No blaming. Okay, so this last trapped emotion of anxiety is just feeling anxious and fearful all the time for no apparent reason. Sometimes we just have that sometimes, we don't know where it's coming from. A lot of times we can feel that from the collective, and it just comes up for us. So let's see if we need to know anything else, and could we just release it? Okay, so this too is a karmic trapped emotion. So we're going to release the karmic trapped emotion of anxiety, and then releasing all the anxiousness and fearfulness for no apparent reason. Okay, that's awesome. Well, I'm not getting that I need to do anything else. There aren't any other messages for the collective. Does anybody else have anything to say before we close out for today?
I think emotions are obviously very, very important. And a lot of people get stuck in their emotions. And even in investing, investors will always tell you need to not have zero emotions when you're doing any type of trading, right? And so I think emotions can work for you, and I also think they can work against you. And if you're too emotional, where you're too high and too low all the time, it definitely can work against you. And also if you're emotionless, where you don't have enough emotion, that can also, work against you. So it's good to be able to tap into those emotions, but also being able to also let go of negative emotions that might be affecting you in certain ways, I think are very, very important. And those are 3 small examples that we gave. I mean, there's other emotions that can really weigh you down. So just recognizing that and, figuring out a way. I do a lot of meditation where I'm able to, let go of a lot of emotional baggage a lot of the time and just kind of clear it all out. And before I even meditated and learned how to meditate, is something that it was just very natural for me. And I know not everyone has that ability, but if you can figure it out, I'd highly recommend to try to figure it out.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. Any last words? I think Colette says she didn't have any. Rebecca, did you have any last words before we close?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's important to know yourself. If you're suffering from a lot of highs and lows and you can't seem to control it, equanimity is a word that I really like, where you stay in a state of peace, but it doesn't mean you don't have emotion operating in your life when necessary, but you don't let them run you. You are in charge. And I think that's one of the keys to being an awakened being, learning that you can be in charge of your mind, your emotions, and be the observer. It's a whole journey that you go on as a metaphysical person, but it's emotions are important. They're part of being human. Yeah.
And I think just to kind of close this out, just to be reminded that the universe wants us to know that we are supported in everything that we do. Even when we don't feel like it, we are. We just have to tap into it and go within to feel that oneness that we have with our creator, and to feel that unconditional love. So we are supported 100% of the time, even when we're in this 3D experience and we're not feeling that, but we are at all times. So that gives me faith and hope to keep moving forward. Thank you guys so much for being here today. I hope you got a lot out of our reading, and can't wait to see what else is possible with releasing those 3 karmic trapped emotions: worthless, blaming, and anxiety. So everyone take care, and we will see you guys Friday.
Thanks, Amanda.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Welcome.
Bye.